And welcome back to Legally Speaking with the McLario firm. Well, do you have a will, a trust, a power of attorney? You know, these are all estate planning documents that are extremely important, and there are a few more you need to know.
Yeah, attorney Spiegel is a partner at McLario. He is here to walk us through 6 estate planning documents you need to understand. Great to see you,
Good to see you, Al.
Good morning, ladies.
Something that a lot of us put off because you got to do a lot of thinking to make these decisions.
You do, and there's a lot of urban legends and a lot of things you just don't understand, and it's easier to just kind of keep your head in the sand and not do anything.
Yeah.
At least easier for now.
A lot of misconceptions. So let's talk about the big 6.
All right.
Here, starting with durable power of attorney, and who needs this?
Yep, so durable power of attorney is your financial document for someone to make financial decisions during your life if you're not able. So who needs it? Everybody who's an adult, and by adult I mean 18 and up, because if your kid goes off to college and gets in a car accident or gets sick, you want to be able to step in and help them out, and if you don't have this, you don't have the right to do that because you're not their guardian anymore.
But
not
even
even
if
as
you're
a
not
parent?
married or don't have kids, you need it,
Right, yes, you need to name someone, because if you don't name someone, the court's going to have to figure it out, and when the court does it, it's more expensive and you might not get what you wanted.
That's a great point. How about healthcare power of attorney? That one seems a little bit more obvious.
Yep, healthcare, the healthcare version of what we just talked about, someone to be able to step in and make healthcare decisions if you're not able. So again, everybody 18 and up needs to have one, and needs to have one that's relatively recent. I had people come in and say, we just did that, and they opened it up and it was 1998.
Yeah.
Their document, it's time for an update. That's kind of old. They might not
And
even accept that.
I did one years ago. I need to change it because the people that I named, it no longer would be the right choice.
That's the other thing that happens. We open these old documents and people think they know what it says because they know who they'd name now, but 25 years ago, you had close friends who were different, or you were living closer to someone, or whatever the situation was.
Let's talk advance directive, because I think people sometimes get it confused. I know I do with the healthcare person.
Yeah, so 2 different documents. The healthcare power of attorney is a document that says, here's who makes the decision if I need someone to. The advance directive is more like a multiple choice questionnaire, where it says, if I'm in this situation, I want this to happen. And if I'm in this situation, I want this to happen. The problem is if you do both of those, sometimes they can conflict. The people you name might say, well, I know that she would want this, but the hospital administration could say, well, it looks like this is like question 2, so therefore we have to do this, and then we end up back in court. So my advice to most of my clients is do that advance directive, but just give it to the people, don't file it. Take the healthcare power of attorney and file that with the institution so they know who to ask, and the person they're asking has been informed about your wishes.
That's great. That's a great point. I like that one. Okay, so then what's the difference between a will and a trust?
Right, so the difference is the court. The biggest urban legend that I see in my business is, oh, don't worry, I don't have to go through the court, I did a will. And the problem is the court administers wills. So if you have a will and that's what's going to transfer your property at your death, guess who oversees that? The county court, called the probate court. So what we do instead is we take stuff out of your name and put it in the name of this thing called a trust that's going to just continue to be in existence after your death. So no court involvement, it's all private, it can all move much more efficiently, and things get done according to your wishes, and even it can stay open after your death. So if you have young kids like I do, someone can supervise them until they get a little older and wiser and can manage their own stuff.
Yeah, and especially if it's a large amount of money, you want someone to be sort of overseeing some of those decisions and distribution.
Right. A large amount of money or anything that's complicated.
Yes.
Like a
You own
house.
business
Or
or
business.
you're renting or just a house.
Yeah.
You know, you can't, a 19-year-old probably isn't going to know how to do everything that needs to be done with a house. I certainly didn't.
I think trust can be confusing because I think a lot of people who have children maybe think about it, but do people who are single or people who are married without kids, or especially if there's been a divorce and stepchildren, does everyone need a trust?
Everyone doesn't need a trust, but I think everybody needs to understand what it is, because there are going to be benefits for everyone. Sometimes I'll have a conversation with a client that says, okay, a trust would give you this protection. You know, it'll protect your kids if they go through a divorce, or it'll protect, you know, if you have a disabled beneficiary. And sometimes people look at all that and say, I don't think it's worth the extra money to do it. And that's fine. Make the decision, but it's worth talking about, and knowing more is always going to allow you to make a better decision.
We only have a few seconds left, but I want to get to marital property agreements. What do they do?
Right, so a lot of people think of them as just prenups.
Yeah.
And a marital property agreement in Wisconsin can be used instead of a will in certain situations. So we can still avoid the court with the marital property agreement. Sometimes we call it a Washington will, named after the state of Washington. I think only Wisconsin and Washington do them, and somehow they got naming rights. I don't know. We just call it that. Washington's a little more of a famous name, I suppose.
Okay.
So, yeah, we can use marital property agreements. It's another thing just to be familiar with, not for everybody, not for every situation, but a tool in the tool belt that we want to be aware of and use when it's right.
And this is why you need not just a consultation, but an expert working with you to sort all this out. It's so great to see you today,
Thanks
Al.
for having me.
Good to see you, Al.
Conversations to have. The initial consultation at McLario is actually free for estate planning, which is so kind of them because you can make an appointment and ask these questions. It's 262-251-4210. The website is McLario.com.